If you love Italy and Italian cuisine, and frankly who doesn't, then it's a matter of time before you're going to fall in love with Sangiovese. And Sangiovese is the principal Italian grape variety in the region of Tuscany, where it's responsible for the great Chiantis and Chianti Classicos, not to mention the wonderful Brunellos and the lighter, finer Rosso di Montalcino. It's a grape variety that's beginning to travel around the world now because there is a wave of migration of Italian varieties which are now following in the footsteps of the wave of French varieties that went all over the wine world more than 100 years ago. And we're just beginning to discover in which other countries and which other regions it really does perform best. But having said that, there are considerable plantings of Sangiovese in the United States, particularly California. It's beginning to come into Australia, and it's also starting to find a name for itself in South Africa. But as I say, the jury is still out. It might yet be another 20 or 30 years before we've really discovered the regions and the countries outside of Italy where it really does its very best stuff. There's so much to love Sangiovese. Personally, I love its perfume. I also love the fact that as a medium to full-bodied wine, or even as a fuller style, perhaps Brunello, it can be very rich and dense, but underneath that beautiful expression of fruit, often as a sour sort of cherry plum fruit that I find really appealing, you have this fine astringency and structure. And that astringency, when combined with the fabulous natural acidity of Sangiovese, is what really helps to accompany a lot of traditional Italian cuisines and casseroles, many of which are based around a tomato reduction. And I tend to find personally that the French varieties, say of Cabernet, Merlot and Shiraz, don't accompany these kinds of cuisine as nearly as well as the native Italian varieties like Sangiovese. Now, let's have a taste of one here. This is a Chianti Classico from Poggerino in Rada del Chianti. And I'm just pouring it here. The vintage is 2012. And you can see straight away that when I pour this wine, that it's not a dense, deep colour. It's sort of like a medium to fullish red, red garnet, and perhaps even just a tinge of brown appearing there. I'm not too bothered by that. It's a young wine, and it looks pretty healthy and bright to me. So, perfume. Very floral. I'm also getting a hint of licorice, a little bit of bitumen. Dark fruits, dark cherries, dark plums, red cherries and berries. Very, very typical Sangiovese, and also typical of a lot of Sangiovese. The winemaker has kept the oak very much in the background. It's not in the foreground. Sangiovese doesn't really want too much new oak character. Yeah, fabulous length. Searingly intense, as I say, slightly sour-edged, slightly earthy fruit. You know, dark plums, dark cherries, and heading down the palate, fabulous length. And underneath that, you have this fine, drying astringency. It's classically powdery. And then, as I said earlier, that really fresh acidity that is quite refreshing and quite unusual in a red variety to see this almost refreshing quality. Fabulous length. Beautiful balance and integration. I think as this wine breathes in the glass, I'd expect that perfume to become more and more powerful. It's already happening. It's a little bit more heady, a little bit more spicy now, more volume of fruit. Just a hint of cinnamon and fruitcake beginning to appear. I'm really loving that. The key things though about Sangiovese are generally medium to full-bodied, generally long, generally finely astringent, and always, typically, in a good Sangiovese, that fabulous acidity. Put all that together, you've got a wine that really, especially at Chianti Classico quality, is going to sell for at least 8 to 12 years. The best of them from great vintages can go on for much longer. But I find this to be a beautiful, beautiful wine. And the challenge really for New World countries like Australia and the United States is really to sort of try and produce wines that really capture these varietal qualities as well as the Italians have done for centuries.